So black and white in the early days were mainly where my interests lie, and general shot street photography actually before fashion. And these were educational times, and as I grasped strictly what photography is was about at uni, I developed my interest in more and more black and white photography. When we actually talk about the genius of monochrome, the name Robert Doisneau rings loud. This French master was a storyteller with his black and white frames capturing the dance of life on Parisian streets. And as a fashion photographer, I was very much moved by Doisneau's ability to transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. His compositions and timing invited us to into a captivating narrative, and for me it kind of inspired some of my early street photography and people photography actually on location before I managed to move through into fashion. Robert Doisneau, he inspired me to see beyond the obvious, to actually bring drama and emotion into my frames to create that cinematic look that I'm sort of famed for now. It allowed me to understand how he added soul to the fashion stories that he created in his street photography. I use these same techniques to bring into my fashion work, and his influence is ever present in my exploration of the fashion work and encapsulating his decisive, fleeting moments of beauty within the street photography that inspired me to move more into fashion. When I actually think of the masters who've really inspired my journey into the fine art monochrome side of things with their darkroom techniques, their printing, allowed me to take those techniques within to the digital art room and to use a master Adobe Lightroom. Ansel Adams is the guy who always comes to mind. His control over form, light, and his mastery of the iconic zone system and using the light as if he's painting with shadows and highlights is amazing. And every time I see his photographs of Yosemite, I'm actually in awe of the depth of contrast and the sheer grandeur that he's captured. They're more than just images, they're absolutely symphonies in grayscale. Another fearless representative photography is one of my great icons who took my view on photography from the streets to more of the fashion look, and that is Helmut Newton. Another beacon on my path has been the fearless Helmut Newton and his really audacious approach to monochrome within fashion photography, and has been a goldmine of inspiration. If you look at some of the comparisons that I'm putting here, subliminally, without thought, his inspiration has flowed within my artistic approach to how I use cinematic lighting and composition within my photographic um, versions for clients and myself. Both these masters have profoundly influenced me. Adam's dedication to perfection and his actual understanding of light and tone, and Newton's bold, provocative style and his ability to have a narrative and powerful stories through portraiture and fashion has really inspired me. And the Helmut Newton's approach to black and white and the fashion look of his work is really what got me really involved in the fashion process and wanted to do more and more black and white fine art pieces within monochrome. So those initial characters that I've just introduced to you were the initial sort of approach to how I went into photography. But then I got inspired by the Hollywood portraiture using Sinclair Ball and Hurrell Smith. And my career in fashion photography has been a journey of learning and evolving, with a significant part of my inspiration, even now coming from the monochrome masters of the Hollywood Golden Age, and that is Clarence Sinclair Bull and George Hurrell. And Bull's technical brilliance in lighting, retouching, and printing influenced how I approached my own craft and the darkroom techniques that I showed within my work. It showed me how to sculpt images through light and crafting narratives through subjects, shadows, and highlights that envelop them, but also to see how he produced rich, dark, monochrome images with milky white highlights and subtle midtones, which you'd call dynamic contrast and dynamic ratios these days. And George Hurrell, whose bold, seductive portraits demonstrated the power of monochrome photography to bring out emotion, tensions, and the glamour of each of his subjects, equally using his darkroom techniques and large format photography to capture great mid-tones, strong dark tones, and really jet black blacks. So yeah, their use of the three-point monochrome lighting technique was absolutely brilliant in showing balance and illumination and shadows to accentuate the subject. These techniques in actual taking the pictures were fantastic to take those negatives into the darkroom and create the beautiful blacks, the richness of blacks, the midtones, the highlights, the milky highlights, and what we'd call dynamic range now within their negatives. And the capture on the day, they would make sure there's enough detail within the negative to make fantastic prints. So it's hard to overstate these Hollywood greats. The influence on my monochrome work and their portraits show how black and white can transform a scene, imbuing it with timeless elegance, captivating the allure that no other medium can quite replicate. They've really influenced how I shoot and perceive my subjects, the light and the stories I want to tell.